I can't wait for you guys to meet Karen. I know that you've all met her before as well, because on one other occasion, was it maybe around about last year, we had Karen along with Anna Murphy, each of them talking about their particular healing modalities. And many of you remember that evening. It was really interesting, well worth going back and having a look at it, and quite a lot of interest in both of these lovely ladies on that occasion. But I wanted to come back to Karen for to talk about other aspects of her healing and her life. But in particular, I'm really quite fascinated. In a conversation with Karen not so long ago, she happened to mention just casually about a particular experience that she'd had on a plane. And I was enthralled. I absolutely thought, I want other people to hear this story. Karen thought, but this happens, this is just an ordinary everyday experience for me. And so I asked her, would she come along and just talk about what it is. Karen is a psychic medium and a healer. She's a healer on all levels, emotional, spiritual, physical. And her work throughout the years has been really at this sort of coalface of people who needed her very much, particularly when you're in social services. Of late, when you have been working with sort of end of life care and palliative care, and also counselling those who are grieving and bereaved afterwards. But, and we will come back to the story in a little while about how Karen's life had a pivotal point and how she came about that, the guides and the angels and the elements that have helped shape a kind of transformation that has occurred in your life, a kind of evolving of your gifts. And we'll come back to that because, and also to some of the stories that you mentioned to me when we did end up in that conversation. I actually want to go back to something, Karen, about when you were a child.
Okay.
Most, your experiences were quite different to other people, really, although you probably thought they were very much the same as everybody else. They were really quite different.
Yeah, and thanks for having me, Trina, and hello everybody. So I suppose for me as a child, I didn't realize that anything that was happening to me was different to anybody else, but I thought it was the same. So, for instance, my granddad, my paternal granddad, who I was so close to, died when I was 6, and absolutely loved him, adored him. He was so fabulous. So when he died, within a couple of years, I was seeing him and I was talking to him, and I tell me mum and dad and my grandmother, and sure, they all laughed it off. They thought I was hallucinating. They thought I was imagining it. Sure, he was as real to me as you are right now, Trina, And I got a kick out of it because my sisters would be terrified. I'd be telling them at night time, and he genuinely would be in their bedroom, and I'd be, granddad's here, and they'd be like, stop and get lost, and they'd be hiding under the duvets. But sure, I thought it was a bit of fun, and I think everybody thought I was a bit mad. I honestly and so we moved from the tenements in the inner city in 1979, and we moved up to Black Horse Avenue around there, the old cattle market, And as I was 11 and 12, we had German Shepherd dogs. For years, my dad had them, and my brothers as they were older. So I'd be lying there, fast asleep at first, and then I'd wake with the noise of this dog, as I would think, charging up the stairs, whacking, smash, full force into the bathroom, banging. You could hear the tail wagging, you could hear it all. Then running the length of the land and up and down the stairs. This went on for hours throughout the night. I used to be exhausted going to school. And I'd be lying there thinking, my dad is going to get up and he's going to absolutely kill this dog. The knife, it's going to wake the whole estate, let alone the family. But no one woke. No one ever woke. And I'd say the next day, the noise of that dog, I'm wrecked. My mum and dad would be saying, did you not sleep? And it wasn't the time of phones that you'd be on phones all night or anything. I was wrecked. And it was this noise, and no one in the household heard it, and again, I was like, no, they had to hear it, or, maybe it's me, quiet sleep or whatever. And it was only months, maybe a year or so later, I slept in a friend's overnight around, the other end of our estate, but they didn't have a dog. Right. And the same thing happened. And then I was like, this isn't a dog. It was the old cattle market where they sold the cattle.
Yes.
And our housing estate was built on this cattle market. And I started to think, could this be the cattle? Because I didn't see them. I could just hear it. And, so I babysat for my mum and the eldest of 6, and I babysat for a neighbour of ours. And if I fell asleep, I often fell asleep in my neighbours, and the kids would be in bed asleep. I was 30 and 14. And when I would wake to strangers in the house. And I thought they were burglars. I thought they were kidnappers. They were here to rob me or the kids or whatever. So I would frantically run out of the house, bang down any neighbour's house, and the couple I was babysitting for, they'd be contacted in the local pub, and the police would be called. So this was an occurrence in the estate. And I'm sure people thought my mother and father were neglecting me, going off like I was 14, 15, left to babysit this poor girl here, all these kidnappers. And it happened in my mum's house, it happened in the neighbour's house. And so my mum, I started to think, okay, am I seeing things? Is this the spirit? Well, I wasn't sure. And my mum brought me to the doctor. She was sick and tired of me making a show of her basically in the estate. That I was seeing all of these people. I know I honestly, she'd laugh about it. She's in spirit herself, and I'm sure she's having a great old laugh. But she actually was sick and tired of like neighbours stopping her and thinking, oh gee, me poor Karen. And she brought me to where a GP, and he said I was hallucinating and put me on meds. And so, yeah, he put me on medication as probably a 15-year-old, 16-year-old. And soon after that, I stopped, except for then I started connecting with the angels, because I felt I was sensing someone, but I didn't know what I was sensing. I hadn't got a clue, and I couldn't then speak to my mum about it because I'd be marched to the doctors again,
Yeah.
And I didn't speak to friends because when I mentioned it, sometimes I kind of knew stuff. And when I'd mentioned, they were like, they thought I was a bit kind of wacky. I'll be honest with you. And they laugh about it now. And I'd know things about people. I wouldn't know how I knew, but I knew. And so then I started just searching and connecting with the angels for support for me, for help from me, because mentally I felt like I was going a bit crazy. I thought I was weird. I thought there was something wrong with me. And I think my mum was very religious. She had, the nuns in the house. She would do the rosary a couple of times of the week. She was a young woman, but she couldn't understand what was happening with me. She was like, the doctor said you're hallucinating, and that was kind of it. Yes. And when I mentioned it to one or two nuns who I knew from our school, and yeah, it was shot down. It was like, and then they marched me home basically, and it was like, tell your mum, and I'd get into trouble. So I felt kind of strangely different, but yeah, I thought this was normal. Like to me, it was completely normal. It was, but no one else thought it was normal. So yeah, so I didn't speak about it for years. Didn't even realize it was spirit. And then when I was connecting with the angels, that was when I started to feel a bit more support and started to understand it a bit more. Yeah. So I suppose then I was searching forever. I will say in my early 20s, I suffered with depression probably in my late teens. Didn't know why, didn't have a clue why. Into my early 20s, I had me both children when I was very young. Well, Derek when I was 18, and then Megan when I was 26, which, was completely planned and wanted. And but I suffered with depression kind of always, and I was searching why. Yes, it was postnatal after both births, but it wasn't just that. It was, then I was searching, it was winter blues. I'd buy a sad lamp, and I was thinking, always searching, why am I depressed? And it was always because I felt there was something else. There was a part of me that I just couldn't figure out. And it wasn't that I was mentally, sick or, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you there. It must have felt really, I suppose, what would you say, that you were separate from others in a sense, because all of those experiences, which were very real to you, were seen as, by the nuns who, there's no way that you're having experiences like that. You can imagine that. Your poor mum must have had her hair, pulling her hair out, the police turning up with the, noises in the night and burglars climbing in and all of that kind of thing. And I know that you mentioned at one stage that you were actually quite interested in becoming a nun. So there was a quite a spiritual, whether you maybe understood it in the way you do now, but there was quite a spiritual attraction to you, really, wasn't there?
Oh, I'd say my mum was absolutely devastated when I got pregnant. I'll be completely honest.
I
She was devastated. She had me as a nun and I was in the convent and she was delighted with herself, as this Catholic woman, really loving the church and the nuns. And I completely let her down. She was disgusted. She absolutely adored my son and me, obviously, after. But at the time, I used to go off on weekends from the time I was 13. I absolutely loved the spiritual side of like the meditation, the quiet, the calm, the peace. I absolutely completely felt like I was home. I was home. It wasn't even a known per se, but that was the only way I found. I thought that was the only way you could connect with yourself and find that kind of peace and that calm and find God, like God in whatever way, angel, source, whatever. But for me, that was what I was searching, and I thought being a nun was where I was going to find it. I only actually was able to verbalize that as I became much older and an adult. I never understood. It was that spiritual piece of just being, just sitting, just being, and just being able to connect with yourself, just being able to connect with source. Um, and yeah, I used to spend weekends on retreats with the nuns and lots of other people. And my friends would think that was bonkers. They were all going out drinking and partying, and I was not into. And it didn't mean I was like, I got myself into trouble. I was suspended. I was thrown out of school, like, suspended for a day here and there for being like the class clown. And so I wasn't like this quiet, shy, little kind of recluse of a girl or anything, like, even, and not that there's anything wrong. So I'm not trying to say I was a saint. I absolutely wasn't. And I'd be hanging around with the guys who'd be out there, some of them joyriding. And, I wanted to be part of that. But actually, I didn't want to be part of it. I wanted to fit in, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I loved, the friends and, being out there having fun. But I just felt it wasn't for me. I didn't want to be partying and having alcohol. I wanted to be with the nuns and sitting
Yeah.
for whatever strange reason.
So how did you end up? Because you continue then from there, and you ended up studying for a master's in Trinity College. Where
Yeah.
so your life has taken incredible turns. You become a mother at a very young age. Having focused your energy in one direction, you now find your heart is very full with a totally other direction to move in. And then there's another calling in you.
Yeah.
So how did that come about?
So when my mum suffered with depression after my youngest brother, I was 13 when he was born, and she went in for convalescent for a number of months. And me being the eldest of six, and my dad trying to work and look after us all, that was really tough. But I became close to one of the nuns in our community who was actually a community social worker, and she really kind of, I felt, empowered me as a 13-year-old and listened to you. And so when I then got pregnant at 18, my son Derek is 34 actually last week. He is absolutely beautiful and amazing. But I had decided I wanted to be a nun, and that didn't happen. I got pregnant and I decided, okay, so what's the next thing I could do? And it was to be a social worker like this nun. And so I spoke to the career guidance teacher in school, and sadly, she didn't have much faith in me or the area that we lived in, and she basically told me I couldn't afford to go on and I'd never be a social worker. We couldn't afford university and all of this. She was pretty right. We couldn't have, but I didn't know that as like this 17, 18-year-old. So I went on, when I had Derek, my mum minded him, and I went on and did childcare and didn't really love it at all these little screaming babies. It wasn't for me. It was like, goodness, even though it was great, but it wasn't for me. I done that for a number of years, and then I did all sorts of CE schemes and stuff. And then I went on and went to Trinity to be a social worker. But during all of this, my support system would have been connecting with the angels. I started doing angel cards, bought my own angel cards, connected with the angels. And didn't know much about meditation, didn't know much about that stuff, but I felt a searching inside me, Trina. And I was always searching for something. And I'd decorate the house, as I said to you before. I'd always be searching, and I thought externally I'm going to find it. And so connecting with the angels was that got me to Trinity because I started to believe in myself. I went to Trinity when I was in my early 30s, I think 31, 32, and then went into social work, worked in child protection for many years, and then moved on to the hospice. I never believed I'd work in palliative care because both my mother and father-in-law, plus my grandmother, who I'd be very close to, all died within, very short space of time. And we had huge involvement caring for them all. Definitely my grandmother. And I thought, I never want to work with people that are dying or elderly people. I'll be completely honest. I thought, this is way too much. This is too much. I can't give. But I didn't realize that I was already kind of drained and searching. And little did I know, I worked in child protection for many years, and I got kind of burnt out, but it was more, I felt it really difficult because, as a community child protection social worker, you're going into maternity hospitals and you're removing newborns from their mums. And as a mum, I found that horrendously difficult, horrendously painful. Even for children, removing them and taking them into care, I always found that really destroying because I was on one level, I absolutely had to do my job. And these children, I left children at home way too long sometimes. But as a mom and putting myself, I always try and put myself in people's shoes and what it might be like for them. But I didn't realize I was an empath. I was picking up all this energy from these people. I always thought it was just that I was too sensitive. And I'm too sensitive. And everybody told me, oh, you're too sensitive, you're too emotional, you're too. And it wasn't. I was connecting with all these energies and never ever knew it, and didn't know I was absorbing all of this pain, all this trauma, all them years. And I didn't understand it until I started really getting into psychic and mediumship stuff. It was when my mum died. She died 13 years ago, and I'd been doing angel cards and actually doing angel cards for people as, just a hobby. And when my mum died, we'd had lots of family members that died suddenly at this stage. I really then knew I wanted to go into palliative care because at this stage I'd moved. I thought, no, I can't do child protection anymore. I now actually have changed my mind. I do want to work with people that are dying. I just felt actually, for whatever reason, again, I felt that connection, that spiritual part of me that actually, that's where I want to be. And when my mum died, I realized, for me anyway, personally, I thought there has to be more. There absolutely, I felt my mum around. I thought, we have to be here for some kind of reason. There has to be a purpose to us.
Mm.
So where is she? Where is she? And for me, I just felt I had to search for her. And I will tell you, Trina, me and my mum had a love-hate relationship. We were like, we were no way perfect. We're human. We had our ups and downs, and in spirit, since she's gone to the spirit world, I've got to know and got to understand her as a person and her journey. And God love her, she tried her best, and her journey here, she has learned me so much about myself, so much about, loving myself, standing in my own power, and being who I am, where she could never do that. And unfortunately, she hid behind kind of, the church and even, people's opinions of her. And she always wanted to fit in, very similar to me, people pleasing, saying yes when you meant no, and when you wanted to say no, always given from that empty cup. And unfortunately, she going to spirit has been the best mum she could ever be, being in the spirit world, because she's really guided me from there way more than she could have here.
Isn't that fascinating? That's really interesting that you say that. And
Yeah.
it's also interesting, I think a lot of women here can identify with this, the passing of mother, father, somebody they were very close to, is often the point at which their life takes a turn themselves. And I can honestly say that too. I mean, it was only after my mum died that I began to do that search as well for, what is it that what's next basically
Yeah,
also, what
yeah,
is the next steps, and what is that purpose and meaning and fulfillment, and how can I make this life valuable with what I've.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I completely understand that, but really interesting that you say that your mom became a great mother once she was in spirit. And can I ask you, does she still come to you and guide you, or is
You
that
know,
is her phase over? I mean, is it, do people have their time with you and until you perhaps learn a particular lesson and then you guide
no,
someone?
for me anyway, Trina, for me, I'd say I drive my mum mad. I would say she's like, just leave me alone, go away. She's gone to spirit and she wants a bit of peace from me for a change. I just ask her for guidance all the time. More so Archangel Michael, I will say. Because like that, my mum can do so much. She's always there. She loves me. She wants the best for me, and I'm sure she's so proud of me. And for me, she's always with me when I need her or when I want her. And I put that intention out there and I ask her to be with me, or I ask for guidance, and I'll know when it's coming from her. Because if I choose that it's my mum I'm connecting with, that's when I know she's around. Interestingly, over the years, my dad, I will say old school, he kind of believes and he doesn't believe. And she's came to me 3 times over the years to pass a message on to me dad. And never ever really for a message for other family members. And I never do readings or sittings for family. I do healing for family members, yeah, not readings. People think, Ashley, you know everything about me, and it's absolutely not like that. But I prefer that it's not for immediate family anyway. But my dad, she came to me one time, you wouldn't believe, I was only actually really starting to really trust. And I was in the Baptist one day, and yeah, my mum came, and I was to give me dad a particular message. And it was something that I'd never known he was struggling with, and he never shared it with us. And I rang him and said, not to panic you, but Mama's just came to me and I have to tell you this. And he just sobbed and sobbed on the phone. And he was like, who told you that? Where did you get that info? How did you know? He just, for him, he really couldn't believe at first. And then he just was so upset and so grateful. Now, I haven't got a clue a lot of what the message was about. He never ever has shared with me, but he was grateful that he got the message. And that's what has happened to me. So if I get a message for someone and I know I have to give it, I have to give it. And that's the piece. So sorry, I'm rambling. This is me all
No,
over. Trina, I ramble. I go into one thing and I move to something else. So
but you
the
have us captivated here now, I have to say, because you're telling a story and we're all with you in this story, which is absolutely lovely. And you mentioned there that your mum came to you in the bath. Now, come on, does she not have a better time? She can come to you, really.
where
But
I'm glad it's in the bath rather than other times, Trina. I can tell you.
and is that something you have any control over, or is that
You know what? My mum is the only person that has ever done that, and that would be how cheeky my mother is. That
Yeah.
would be how cheeky she is. Thankfully, no spirit world, the angels, they would all completely respect that, and they would know I would absolutely die of fright. Because one of the very first things in the beginning when I used to connect with spirit and I used to panic, and excuse me for being so crude or whatever, but I used to absolute panic thinking, oh God, when you're on the toilet part, or when you're being a bit intimate, are they watching? Are they doing? I would be absolute a nervous wreck. I think that's probably how I suffered with depression for so long. All this stuff would be going mad in my head. I'd be thinking, oh Jesus, they can see me doing this. And then if I said something nasty about someone and I'd be cursing my husband or gossiping about someone, I'd be thinking, oh Jesus, they can hear me, they're watching. So they couldn't care less what I'm saying or doing most of the time, So
You're human. You have a very human life, a human experience here. Whilst,
absolutely.
can I just say, Anna has her hand up. She wants to ask a question. Do you mind if we pop in with this? Anna, fire away.
Absolutely.
You have to unmute yourself
Hi,
though.
Karen. I
I
want to
am.
tell you, my mum passed away last Wednesday. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And everything that you're saying is giving me goosepimples because she went on her own terms. She was 94 and she had got her hair done. She'd gone to the doctors. She got a clean bill of health. She was going to go into respite and she had FaceTimed me and rang everybody. And then she said to my sister, did you get the bin bags? And my sister said, no, I'll get them in the morning. And she said, no, it's 10 to 7. The shop will be closed at 7. Go now to the shop and get them. And when she came back, my mum was dead. She passed away.
Mm.
And it was beautiful. She orchestrated everything her own way. And the funny thing is, we knew it. We could feel it. You know, we could feel it in her. So she died at 10 to 7 on Wednesday. She was buried on Friday. I came home here at 10 to 7 on Friday night. I looked up at the clock and I thought, oh my God, 48 hours. She has the whole thing done and dusted in 48 hours.
Wow.
And we had that snowstorm on Friday. So, you know, it was just unbelievable. I would say that was her as well. And
Yeah.
so my question is, that's what I felt, you know, because we were standing in the graveyard surrounded by the snow. It was absolutely magical. A lot of people had to turn back. They couldn't make it because the church was on a steep hill. And when we went for the meal afterwards and we came out of the restaurant, the snow was gone. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, she's up there having fun with her newfound powers. And she's sending us signs, you know, and we had a double rainbow on Saturday night, you know, and little things like that. Like, I'm not sad about her passing in the sense that she couldn't have orchestrated it any better. And she set us up to not be sad about it. You know, at 94, she was fantastic. She was sparkling, you know what I mean? So, that's what I was, you know, that feeling and that intuition that she hasn't really gone that far.
That is, thank you so much, Anna, for sharing that with us. Karen, do you understand what Anna's
Oh,
talking?
absolutely. And you know, like, when you can feel the love, can't you, from Anna already, that her mum has left, and that memory and the imprint. And you know, Anna, what I would say is, you're absolutely right. She's not gone that far. Physically, she has left her physical body, but spiritually, she's around. Like, where is the spirit world? Where is heaven, as people ask? And for me, it's here within us. Like, they're here with us all the time. You know, they're doing their own thing and they're living their own life in spirit, you know, and helping us from a way better vantage point than they ever could. But actually, they're still here. So, you know, I always say to people, you know, when you want to connect with your loved one, not everybody has to go to a psychic or a medium. A psychic, you can't connect. All mediums are psychics, but not all psychics are mediums. So they can't all connect with spirit. But you know, it's you putting your intention out to your mum, asking your mum whatever it is, inviting your mum to be with you, inviting her to be in your space, and, you know, sitting in that space. So, because what happens is, our loved ones are sending us signs all the time, whether it's the rainbow, whether it's a feather, whether it's a robin, whether it's a song that you hear on the radio that reminds you of them, you know, whether you see someone that nearly is identical. You know, I know for me, I've often literally saw someone and I'm about to kind of approach them thinking it's that person, and then you realize, oh God, actually that isn't them. So you see, there are signs all the time. And as you said, Anna, your mum might have been a private woman that didn't want this big funeral, didn't want everybody there. That's why they had to return home. You know,
Yes.
that's why they couldn't be part of that, you know.
That
And
would be her.
yeah, and you know what I also say, working in a hospice with people that are dying, and even your own family members, you know, people want to be part of, you know, want to be there with their loved one when they're passing over to spirit. And what happens is, your mum had her own agenda, for the simple reason it might have been too painful for your mum to actually leave when you were right there beside her. It might have been too painful for her to actually say that goodbye, or look at you, the stress that she's leaving.
Yeah.
So therefore, that's what happens. You're the absolute, I couldn't agree with you more. They completely orchestrate. It's like we come into this world at a time, we have our birth date, you know, and we also have our date that we're going to die. And yes, we have obviously free will, and, you know, that can change. We can change that because of our free will. So you get a number of different dates, but your mum chose to do that, sent for the bin bags, because she couldn't say her goodbyes. It would be too painful for her.
Yeah. Well, she was saying goodbye anyway, because she was supposed to go into respite, because my sister was going to Lanzarote yesterday, on Sunday. Now my sister went because my mother said to her, you are going on Sunday now, aren't you? And she said, yes. So Mum had actually technically said goodbye. Like, she had FaceTimed me that day and she was blowing kisses, and she said, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. And I said, Mum, I have a tumble dryer for you, because she needed a new tumble. And she was like, I'm so excited, you know, but all the blowing and the kisses, like she said, she literally said goodbye to everybody. And I also feel that she was saying to me, you know, after Christmas, what am I doing here? What am I doing? There's nothing for me to do. I have nothing to do. And I said, Mommy, you're not a human doing, you're a human being. All you have to do is be present. And she said, but I don't want to be here anymore. And I said, well, if you don't want to be here anymore, then go. You have my permission to go. And she said, really? I asked your sister and she said the same. And I said, then go, Mommy, because you're 94. this is your 95th year now. If you feel that this is your time, we love you so much. It's okay. You know, just go, just come back with the lotto numbers. That's the main thing.
You know
Well,
what? If she does, Anna, please share them with me, because none of my family have ever come back with them.
well, can I
Because
just say,
she said
sorry,
in her 90s, like, she quit smoking. She decided to quit smoking. She had her first pint of Guinness. She learned how to FaceTime, you know. She did the Christmas matching pajamas thing, you know. But the most important thing she did was she reconnected with long lost family, and she reunited the family.
Wow.
I'm so
That was the
pleased
most amazing thing she did.
that's a wonderful experience that you have for you and your family. It's a great gift, and thank you very much for sharing that with us. We really appreciate that. And Karen, I know that having worked in that's very much a part of your work. You know, working in end of life care, palliative care, and that's, you've many experiences of people as they leave the world. But where then, because the story kind of changes a little bit, and it was really your experience with COVID that has brought about quite a change in your life, isn't that right?
I had started into psychic and mediumship development years earlier. Never really trusted, never believed that, like, it contradicts itself kind of, because I didn't really trust. I was thinking, why me? How can this be happening to me? This is weird. This couldn't be happening. But yet the evidence I was getting for people couldn't have been something I just knew, you know? And what happened was, I used to work with people that were, you know, we call it pre-death and then post-death. You know, you're doing bereavement work in post-death when someone has died. And so I would be working with someone that is terminally ill and then dies, whether they be young people, old people, whatever. And then for lots of times I would be then doing bereavement counselling with, you know, maybe a family member of theirs. And what happened was, in development, when I was learning, you know, say I might have been working with a woman and she dies, and now her husband's in and I'm doing bereavement support, and I would start seeing his wife beside him.
Really?
Seeing, yeah, and that used to be really difficult for me, because I didn't know how to manage that. I didn't know how to handle that. And I'm not going to tell someone sitting in front of me, well, your wife is there beside you, someone that's really grieving. And I was the social worker when she was alive. So how could you know, and it's unethical. There's no way I'd ever do it. But I really struggled with trying to figure this out. And again, I was given from the empty cup, and I always thought, oh goodness, it's such amazing work, and such a privilege to be, you know, part of that with people, to sit with such pain sometimes. But so I was kind of torn with, I really love this work, but I really want to develop. But I'm
sorry to jump in there. It's too much of a coincidence that is the work that you've ended up doing. I mean, obviously, to use a very, you know, overused phrase, the universe has conspired to get you into
absolutely. Yeah, and you know what, Trina, that's the piece. So I wouldn't have saw her like that at first. It was like I kind of doubted and then thought, oh, you know, everybody can do this, everybody can develop, everybody can, you know, everybody's searching when their loved one dies. And so again, kind of thinking everybody, I would think it's not anything special I can do. We all have it within us, so we can bring it out if we choose to develop it. And that's the way I look at it. And so I didn't tell many people that I did this. A few family members and maybe some of their friends I would practice with over the years. Didn't tell people in work. For many reasons. Firstly, I work in a hospice, and you know, you don't want people looking at you either thinking you're a bit weird. I've gone to mediums, I've gone to psychics, and a lot of people can be scammers, and they can take advantage of vulnerable, grieving people. And I've been on the end of that. I used to take my wedding rings off, and I'd give false names, making appointments, and you know, so if I didn't trust going to someone that they were genuine, how could people believe that I was now genuine? So I didn't believe in myself. But what happened was, I had lots of different kind of physical injuries over the years, and trying to slow down. And as I said to you before, Trina, and anybody who heard me, I'd be getting all sorts done in the house. I'd never stop, and I'd never listen, and I'd never actually look at me life. I'd be like running externally. Oh yeah, I'll do this, and I'd be great. And always going to work and having to go to work. And I had a leg injury a number of years ago and was out of work for a few months, and I had a back injury. And then this time around, though, I got COVID. And what had happened was, just before I got COVID, we were doing the PPE, and it was really distressing for families. And, you know, all the time. And everybody, as I said before, all over the world, losing so many loved ones. For me, when I got COVID, I got it in my lungs, obviously, but I got it in my brain. And that was the only thing that stopped me, because there's nothing I could do about it. And for months I was frantic, and I was trying to get back to work, and I was really cross and really angry. And as I started to get well, I realized the panic that actually, oh God, I could be sent back to work. And if I'm sent back to work, I know I'm going to not connect with the angels, with my guides, all of this again, because that's my patron. I would be doing really great and doing really well, and then I go to work and I give so much and I get so burnt out and so exhausted and I've no energy. I cancel the person that's coming for a reading. I cancel the person that's due to come in for a healing, because I'm so burnt out, not minding myself. And again, I wasn't minding my energy. I didn't, even though I was a healer, I was doing healing, angel healing for years, angelic healing, but I wasn't minding my own energy. So again, I was absorbing. And plus, Trina, that was, you know, when I got COVID and started to really think about things, you know, I had to sit in silence looking at, you know, birds on a tree in silence for months. Mobility was so poor, was in bed, you know, my husband had helped me up and down the stairs. And what happened was, when I started to look at it, I started to realize I wasn't protecting my energy, and started to actually go back into connecting with my guides and the angels, and realizing it wasn't actually that I just was burnt out. I was taking on the energy of everybody else. And that was what I realized. And I knew for me that actually, if I was to go back there, I needed to really change. And so I started getting back into doing healings again, and back into connecting with my guides for myself, for my own healing. And over time, actually, you know what, I honestly realized that actually that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to serve. I'm here to be of service. And although I love to work in the hospice, the energy is different. It's a different energy. When I'm doing healings and I'm giving a reading to someone like that, someone who's grieving, someone who's lost a loved one, the energy is completely different. It just amazes me. It's just so powerful, and it's just so amazing, the healing that someone from spirit can bring their loved one here.
Yeah.
And you know, the healing that can happen between people, because you know, we're all human. We all say, you know, awful things sometimes in anger, and we hurt each other, and you know, for to see the apology sometimes, or just the guidance that a loved one can give someone, is fascinating and amazing. And you know, for me, it made me realize that actually, if I was ever to work as a social worker, I never want to work anywhere else. But actually, you know, I returned to work gradually, and I'm on a phase basis. And I done that firstly for financial reasons. And then it was also because of the love of the job. And I'm back there gradually since last October. And being back there a bit has made me actually realize that, you know what? Yes, I'm of service to people there, but I no longer want to be there. I actually want to be of service to spirit.
This is the kind of transformation. This is the evolution, really, of your particular gifts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't have got COVID the way I got COVID, Trina, I don't know if I'd have ever trusted it enough to be in this position, to be as, you know, now I would nearly, it's not that I think I'm amazing and I'm telling everybody and anybody about it, but now I absolutely doesn't bother me whatsoever what people think. You know, that's their opinions, and I talk the talk. I tell people this, and you know, you have no control over what X, Y, and Z think of you, and you know, that's their stuff. And I talk about self-care. I teach people about manifestation and, you know, law of attraction, minding yourself. I talk the talk, and I used to not implement it, but now I do.
Yes.
Yeah, now I do.
Okay, and now do you find that, you know, once you've made that commitment to yourself, to spirit, to your gifts, do you find that more and more people are coming to you, that things are changing?
So, you know, sometimes I still don't be well, Trina, and I always put it out there to me guides, to the angels. Okay, so you bring me, because you know, for a long time I wasn't advertising, and I still don't really, because I was unsure. Am I going back to work? Am I not going to go back to work? Am I going to stay in work? Financial, all this. My head was a roller coaster. I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm trying to actually see, God, is, you know, can you do this? Is there people that really want this kind of service? And now I just decided that actually, although I don't advertise, I trust that those that need to come to me are going to be brought to me. And when I'm not well, I very rarely get an appointment off anybody. It's gas, you know. I find the universe and the angels minding me. But actually, once I told you this before, you know, I used to say, oh, you know, I trust, and oh God, I hope the guides come, and I hope the spirit guides. If I'm sitting to do a reading, I'll be panicking. Oh God, what if the spirit world don't come, and what if they don't get a message? And that absolutely, you know, I nearly trust the spirit world now more than I probably trust myself or my husband or anybody else on the planet. And that's been complete. My husband would agree with you. He'd tell you, yeah, he kind of is second best now or whatever. I don't have a doubt on this planet. I never have to really prep. I do that really out of respect for the spirit world, the angels. I'll prep the room, I cleanse, I do all of that, and I sit for a little bit. I can run in the door like 2 minutes to doing a reading, and I'm like, okay, here you go. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that it also happens, you know, in the most unusual places. I mean, for example, you had an experience that you were telling me about a few weeks ago where you were on a plane. Do you want to tell us what happened there?
Yeah, so again, Trina, you know, as I said to you years ago, that used to happen all the time. And I'd be like, oh, Jeannie, oh God, how do I manage this? And, you know, the spirit world would be coming to me in my sleep, and I'd be awake all night. And through development, I really learned how to manage that. So now, so the spirit world only come to me if I'm doing a reading. I'm very clear about these are my boundaries. I need to sleep, I need to work, all of this. However, the last number of months, for whatever reason, I don't know what this transformation is, but they're starting to come to me whenever again. Not always, absolutely not. But now I know immediately if I have to give someone a message, I have to give that message. I'm not a complete weirdo. I don't believe in walking up to someone in Tesco's and saying, you know, your mum who's just gone to spirit is beside you. Nothing like that. You know, you'd frighten the life out of some people. Anyway, we're on a flight a couple of weeks ago, myself and the husband, just going to Liverpool, and I'm sitting about 8 rows ahead of him, you know, and we wouldn't pay Ryanair for the seating together. It's only a half-hour flight. No. And so I'm kind of watching. There's no one sitting between me and this other lady, and I'm trying to give him the eye, come on, and he didn't. Nah, he wasn't bothered. And I thought, well, you know, feck him now. He doesn't want to sit with his wife anyway, feeling a little bit insecure about myself. And so when we were able to move, I moved down just to check with him, and he had a seat either side of him. So that's why he didn't move. He actually did really care about me. And I would like to tell myself that. So anyway, I sit next to him. Oh, Jesus, I was only sitting there within seconds. So there you go. Isn't there the way the spirit world guides you and all? If he'd came up to me, I wouldn't have been in this position. So there's a guy right in front of him in the middle seat, and he gets up and he goes to loo, and on his way back, I can hear his mum. She's here to the right side of me, and she's, and so that's the difference, you know. I hear things sometimes, not often, absolutely. It's just a knowing, or I will see. Mainly for me, it's clairsentience. It's a knowing, a feeling. Absolutely, that's it. In my early days, I'd see all the time. Anyway, this lady is, I have to give this man a message. And so I lean over and say, and I'm telling her in my head, I'm like, no, absolutely not appropriate, not happening, not doing it, go away, get lost. Sorry, being rude, but I was like, seriously, you know, get lost. And said to my husband, I knew she wasn't getting lost, put it this way. And I said to my husband, listen, if when we get off the plane, I talk to this man, pointing kind of secretly, you know, if I'm talking to him, just to let you know, it's because his mum, I have to tell him a message. And he was like, tell her to F off. That's what he said to me. And I said, yeah, I kind of did, but she's not moving anywhere. And, you know, I felt really weird and vulnerable. And, you know, like, imagine a stranger approaching it. Like, it's not my style. And I already hate kind of being out there in the limelight. And anyway, she wouldn't leave me alone. So in the end, I just said, look, you know, if this is really important, remind me when we're getting off the flight. And I put it out there to Archangel Michael, look, if this is really important, you need to let me know this is important. So it was really important. And we get off the flight, and this man is kind of piles behind me, and I'm slowing up waiting, and he zooms past me, and I go after him and tip him on the shoulder. And look, it's a learning. Next time I'll say, excuse me, but I says to him, sorry. And he looked at me as if I bumped into him, and he was like, oh, it's fine. And then he goes off again. So I have to go running after him and tip him again. Sorry. And he looks at me, and I said, oh, look, you know, and I explained, I said, look, this is not my style. I'm really sorry. I'm not a weirdo. I'm not like, I'm not a weird type of woman. However, I connect with the spirit world, and, you know, there's a lady in spirit, and I have to tell you this. And I gave him his message, and he kind of looked at me, and he was like a little bit kind of abrupt and off. And can you blame him? And I just said, you know, she said to tell you she's really proud of you, and, you know, what you're doing is right, and, you know, and that she's okay. And there was a little bit more of a message, and he was like, no, and wasn't accepting. And he said, what does that mean? And how, you know, and I said, we're in the middle of a packed airport. And I said, actually, do you know, that's the message. That's what I've been given. I'm not actually aware of anything else. I didn't connect with anything else. I didn't want to get into an actual standing there having a reading. And he said, well, who is she? Really abruptly again, can you blame him? And I said, well, actually, you know who she is, but I would presume she's your mum. And he just stood there, frozen, tears in his eyes. And he said, oh, okay, thank you. And flew. Absolute was gone within seconds.
And he insisted that he heard this. I mean, it wasn't.
Oh, you know, Trina, my husband is miles up the way, and I can see him watching me as if horror in his face and thinking, Jesus, like this word, or what is she like? And when I gets to him, he said, what did he say? And I tells him, and he said, well, you know, I would have told you to F off, get lost, and ran. And I was like, would you really? And he was like, I would. He'd have been so scared. And yeah, I've given him lots of guidance over the years. Like his brother, who we absolutely all loved, died 3 years ago of motor neuron disease. And he's come through to me lots of times and gave me particular messages to pass to Martin. And one being a number of months ago, Trina, sorry, briefly, and I know I'm waffling.
No, you're not.
A number of months ago, he said, you know, tell Martin he's to slow down. He's going to, you know, he's to slow down. He's going to have an accident. And I said it to Martin, and he was like, and about 2 weeks later, I got a phone call that Martin was in A&E. Hadn't slowed down, and it wasn't me, because I do not connect with people's energies unless I'm doing a reading. It's not fair. It wouldn't be okay. So, and I don't want to know what my husband is thinking all the time or what he's doing. You know, I'd be scared to connect with his energy. So that's even his brother coming through, and, you know, just examples like that.
Well, it's interesting now, because you mentioned that you know, you mentioned even earlier that people have experiences that you know, their loved ones come through, whether it's a robin or a song or an experience like that. It can be even, you know, quite shocking sometimes. I know my sister and I, on one occasion, as we were speaking about her mother, the most beautiful blue light shot down right between the two of us, and there was no doubt what that was. But can I just say, my Yvonne has said her goddaughter Alicia passed on the 24th of February after a short illness. I'm so sorry, Yvonne. She was 21. Her service was at the weekend. And yesterday I asked her, was she okay? And I saw a heart-shaped cloud in the sky immediately. Isn't that just beautiful? How lovely. I'm glad you had that comfort. And interesting that it was something that attracted your attention, this beautiful heart-shaped cloud in the sky. Thank you. And that's a difficult time for you. But thank you so much for letting us know that. Jay Brennan said, that is lovely. And I think that had to do with one of the stories that you were telling, that she said, that is lovely. I think it was a comforting message that you brought through that came up with. And you're wondering, can you tell us how we can have a session with Karen at the end of the Zoom? We definitely would be able to talk about that, because I want to get to that where you've come to now. In the work that you're doing, you've actually set up a whole kind of system and workshops and that kind of thing. And one of the things that you say is that, yes, you mentioned there earlier, you know, we all have the ability to connect with spirit. Some of us, you know, and we had other people on before who talk about the clairs, you know, some of us are clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, you know, or even a taste is something that brings it to you. And I know that you plan at some stage to do workshops to help people discover their particular gift. But you mentioned there that not all psychics are medium, but all mediums are psychic. Do you want to explain that a little bit further?
So again, Trina, I would have never known that. Absolute not known. I would have went and paid money here, there, and everywhere. And I didn't realize that actually sometimes they weren't mediums, they were psychics, and they were picking up from my energy that I'd had a debt. I went to see this one lady, and she said to me, you have a parent in the spirit world. And I said, yeah. And she said, it's your dad. And I said, actually, it's not. She said, oh yeah, no, it's not. It's your mum. And I was like, well, of course it is. So that, and I've gone and I've got information that are tiny little bits. And I think when you're grieving and you're searching, you will pull at anything. I know for me, absolutely, I would have took anything someone, you could be there for 45 minutes and they might give you 20 seconds of something. And I'd hold that and think, and I'd be trying to fit all the other bits of information together. And it was only through my own development I understood and learned and discovered. So psychically, what that means is you're connecting. So if I'm doing a reading for you, Trina, and we're doing a psychic reading, I'm giving you information about you, about yourself. It might be past life stuff. It might be stuff that's going on now. There'll be a lot of guidance there, a lot of wisdom that will come through from my guides that I can pass on to you. But a lot of it will be just to do with you, to do with your personal stuff. Yes, family stuff, dynamics in families. But I will never be I might be able to say, yes, someone has died, but I will always be completely honest with you that actually that doesn't mean the person that is there. That's just the way I am. I just would want to be completely honest. Because I never want to say, well, your mum is here when she actually isn't. Oh. I only will have your mum there if we've agreed that you're okay with me connecting with spirit. And that doesn't mean your mum is still going to come true. It doesn't mean I don't have a magic wand. What happens is if mediumship is connecting with spirit, it's connecting with people that have died, have left their earthly bodies and are now gone to spirit world. That's mediumship. Mm-hmm. So for a medium, they have to be able to connect with energy. So that's what I'm saying. It's a different energy. Yes. It's a different vibration. Mediumship is a vibration. It's kind of a higher vibration, a higher energy. So therefore, the medium always has to be able psychically to connect with energy, where psychics absolutely connect with the energy, but sometimes they can't bring it to that higher vibration.
Yes, and come through and speak with spirit and then connect with spirit. That's fascinating.
That makes sense. Sorry.
Oh, it absolutely does. And it might actually settle an awful lot in an awful lot of people's minds as well. Do you mind if I ask, does anybody have any questions you want to come to speak with Karen about? Let me see. If you put your hand up. So can I just say, unmute yourself. I see, John, that you have your hand up there. Unmute yourself and fire away. Can you unmute yourself is the question? Yes, you can. Go ahead.
It's June here.
Oh, June, there you
June,
are.
yeah, sorry. I suppose the ways that I have felt before that I've seen signs is something physical, like, the things that we often feel, like the robins, the feathers, or also smell sometimes, and I don't know why that is. But a strange thing happened to me today. I was worried about something about my daughter, and it was going over in my head, and I got to work, and it was like a voice. And it wasn't my voice. It was like a cross voice, almost like my mother, I suppose, or a teacher. And they just said, park it. Just when I was like, as much to say, like, that's enough now. And I said, okay, I'll park it so for today. And I did. And I had a grand day. I forgot what I was worried about. And it was really strange though, because it wasn't me thinking it. It was literally somebody else saying the words, and I just had it was the first time that happened to me. I don't know if that's weird or not.
No, it's not. Karen, you probably well recognize that.
Yeah, not a bit weird, no. And look at the difference it made. You had a good day.
Yeah.
So that person, whether it was your mum or not, they know exactly how to get your attention.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So spirit come back, they don't come back all just loving and emotional because they're in spirit. They try and get their character, their personality across. Like if someone goes to spirit and they've barely ever spoke here, it's going to be really difficult for me to nearly even get their character, their personality across, because they're still going to be very quiet in spirit, because if they're going to be now all bouncing around and all loving and completely opposite to the way they were here, you're never going to believe that's the person that we're connecting with.
Yeah.
So they have to come back, you know, and show the essence of themselves, the essence of who they were as a person, for you to actually say, actually, that is my mum. I felt my mum there. I knew by the way she spoke. I knew by just the whole energy, the whole personality, the whole character. And it might be that someone is snappy and giving out to you because they're telling you at the park, because otherwise you're causing yourself so much stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
So they're trying to guide you. They're trying to support you.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you, June, as well, for bringing that up. I have another raised hand on the smartphone, the how are you smartphone. Does anybody know what it is? Go ahead. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question? I have nothing other than the smartphone 2020. So I don't know who that actually is. You've got your hand? Yeah.
I can't put up my hand, but I just want to ask Karen.
Go ahead.
The nun that was the social worker, was that Sister Maria?
Yeah, it was actually. Yeah, absolutely. I hope she made a difference in your life too. Please tell me she wasn't awful.
I went to the same school.
Wow.
The same school.
And hopefully, did you have a good experience with Sister Maria?
Not directly, but somebody I know who I was close to did. And she actually helped them to go on to Trinity as well.
Very good. Right. She's certainly somebody who influences in people's lives and directs them and opens doors. It's wonderful. Anna-Marie, thank you for that. If you know who you are with the smartphone 2020, you've got your hand up. You're free to ask your question now. No. Okay.
Trina?
Yes. Oh, Elizabeth, hello. No.
Hi. No, I was just wondering, would Karen agree that I heard the expression that psychics perceive, whereas mediums receive? So would Karen...
Yeah, mediums receive when they put the intention out for spirit to come. Psychics perceive, I'm not sure I'd agree with that, because psychics are receiving, because they're receiving the information from your soul. They're not just perceiving, they're not just, well, for me anyway, and for psychics that I know and through my development, psychics are connecting with your energy. They're connecting with your soul, and they're also receiving information that way. So they're not just perceiving what has happened. If you understand it, am I making that kind of clear? Do you understand that?
Yeah, I just thought that it was more with mediumship, that they are receiving messages from spirit rather than a perception of what spirit is, you know, what somebody wants to hear from spirit.
I would agree with that. You don't just ask spirit for whatever. Like, so if I'm doing a reading and connecting with the spirit world, I have to put it out there that's okay, Trina is coming today for a reading. The minute I take that appointment off Trina and I agree that I'm doing that reading, immediately I put my intention out to spirit. Okay, next Monday, 12 o'clock, I'm doing the reading for Trina. Please guide me, support me, and bring whoever from spirit needs to connect with Trina, or who Trina needs to hear from. Trina might come in with an absolute expectation. The amount of people that come here and have an expectation that they want to talk to whoever. And I always very clearly say, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't have a magic wand. What you get is what you need to hear from spirit. And it's not always what people want to hear. You know, that I've went to people and I wanted to hear from my mother, and my grandmother came through. But you know, over time, I realized I needed to hear what I heard from my grandmother, or for whatever guidance, do you know? So if you came to me for a reading, that doesn't mean I'm going to be able to bring from spirit whoever it is you want to hear. Whoever comes from spirit is who needs to talk to you, who needs to give you the guidance, or who you need to hear from.
Yeah, that actually happened to me one time. I had a reading, and like that, I wanted to hear from my dad. And but my grandmother came through. I never knew my grandmother,
Yeah.
but I'm named after her. And she was there. She was telling me how proud she is of me and how well I've done. And I'm going, okay, thank you very much. But I never knew her. So it was a beautiful surprise, beautiful gift to
And
get that.
that's the thing. And I've given readings like that people haven't met, grandparents or whatever. And sometimes they're a little bit disappointed because obviously they're grieving and they want that certain person. And unfortunately, as I say, I can't pick and choose who I'm going to connect with in spirit. I just
Yeah.
that who comes through, and I'm very honest about that to people, and over time, hopefully they'll be happy with the connection that they had, because it takes a lot for the spirit person to come through. That even energy that they're using to get through, to get a message through, is remarkable. And for them to make that effort, I think is remarkable anyway. When you're grieving, it's different if it isn't who you want. But
no, it wasn't a case of that I didn't want anybody else. I was just hoping, but I was quite open to receive whatever message was coming through. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it was just, and I appreciate the gift that this other lady, as indeed yourself, have for this. So
but
hopefully I get to have a meeting with you at some stage.
Yeah, hopefully. And look at the love that your grandmother brought through, even though
Absolutely.
even though you never met her. She showed you she was a huge part of your life. Look, at she was able to tell you how proud of you she was, so doesn't that show that they're always around,
Absolutely. It's brilliant. Brilliant. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
There's a few people who are asking about how we're coming to the end. So, and these are big questions. How can people try and connect with spirit? Any tips for us to develop our abilities? And can I just say, those of you with that question in mind, I think that you had talked about a workshop that you're actually planning on doing, that exactly focusing on that, because that's a really big thing for Karen to go into even now. And so what we've done is I'm going to give you Karen's details. I will be sending on the email afterwards with the recording of this evening. Anyone who wants to go back can actually listen to that. And I'll give you Karen's email address in that. And then, Karen, I expect you register the interest, and you'll be able to let people know as the workshops and open up. Because and I can see other people are saying, how can they contact you, because they'd love to register for a booking with you. So, and that's where you're going next, isn't it?
Yeah. Can I just say, Trina, though, in answer to all them questions, and you're right, it's too big to actually sit, it takes us hours, but just to say, trying to, have some kind of spiritual practice every day, whether it's lighting incense, whether it's lighting a candle, sitting in your own silence, whether it's watching the birds, whether it's in the park, in the beach, whatever, putting your intention out there to your loved ones to be close to you, and not being always frazzled in your head, listening to radios, listening to podcasts, listening to audibles, actually spending your time in nature, or, a nice kind of party at home with your incense, with your candles, whatever. If you've no incense, that's absolutely fine. The intention is what's powerful. You're making that commitment to them that you want to connect with them, and you are giving them the time. Okay, tomorrow at 4 o'clock, I'm going to sit and have a cup of tea. I often pour a cup of tea for my mum and leave it there, see the steam coming out, and I know then I'll have a chat, and then I'm not bothering her for the rest of the time. So, and even journaling, write a little letter to them. They, if you feel they're not around you, I guarantee you, writing that letter, you'll start to get information back. You'll start to feel, you'll start to hear songs, you'll start to see, you'll start to smell. You will get signs that way. But as you said, Trina, I don't want to be taking up loads of time. But I as you see, I can just waffle and waffle. I can go on and on. I'm so passionate about it all. It's so amazing.
I'd love you to stay. And I know for a fact, I certainly know many of us here, probably all of us here, very much have somebody in mind when we're listening to you talking as well. A lot of people have lost people in the last little while, very recently, who are here this evening. And thank you so much for that. And a lot of thank yous as well. And Deborah is saying it's very incredibly uplifting. And thank you so much. And many other thank yous for sharing your gift. You actually are you've got some cards for us to leave us with this evening.
Yeah, so I've picked I you know, anybody that follows the Instagram page, it's only an angel card. I don't do much else on it because as I said, I wasn't wanting to be out there in the public at the minute. So when I put an intention out, I put an intention out to be guided to whatever card. They're always back to front. I never see what I'm picking, and it's for the majority of people that is going to hear about it. And it's gas because half the time I get cards that I need to hear myself. It's 3 cards tonight. One was New Beginnings. Yeah, the second one was Connect with Music, and the third was Archangel Zadkiel, Transformation. So, you know, if we were to look at the new beginnings, you know, for all of us, it's inspiring new beginnings. For me, it's a new beginning. You know, for every one of us, we have new beginnings, and it's to trust. You know, doors are open for us all the time, and sometimes we don't. We're so busy, and you know, we're not aware of them, and they'll be open again. So start becoming aware. Start to see new opportunities. What are the new opportunities in your life? What are the new beginnings? Is it a new job? Is it retirement? Is it new babies? Is it career, house, whatever? But be aware that the angels and your guides, your family members in spirit are there guiding you to whatever the new beginning is, and trust it. So if you're looking for an opportunity, or you feel that there's a new opportunity coming your way, or something that you're interested at the minute, that's a sign to trust that and to actually go for that.
Brilliant.
The Connect with Music, I would say, is, you know, start listening to more music that uplifts your soul. Whether it's, you know, Andrea Bocelli for me anyway, you know, years ago it would have been all kind of like ballads and rap and, you know, The Cure or The Cult, God knows. But, you know, connect with music that inspires you, that actually you feel elevated. And listen to the words, listen to the music, because that's where you also are getting your signs from the angels, from your guides, from your loved ones. So listen to the music. And as I said, it's what elevates you. Trust the songs that you are choosing that actually are signs from your guides. Archangel Zadkiel is for transformation. He is also about new beginnings, but he is about trusting the transformation, the emotional and physical transformations that have happened in your life. You know, the shedding of old skin, and, you know, becoming the person that you want to be, that are eager to be, and trusting that. And he is there to help you and to guide you all.
Oh, listen, I love a bit of Zadkiel. I love that. And I love that you said as well about the music, because a lot of people here this evening would have been saying, I wonder how I can actually receive messages. It may well be they were meant to hear that for themselves. You know, that it's in the song. And I had a wonderful experience once. I was thinking about my dad as I was cleaning the bathroom. He had passed a couple of years prior to that. And I was thinking about him again, wondering, you know, how he was. And a song came on. It was a playlist I had, and it was an old Eurovision song, Ireland. It was The Hills of Clare. And
Wow.
as soon as that music started, I remember waltzing with my dad to that song. And I spent the whole of that song waltzing with him. It was a very powerful sensation of waltzing with him.
Wow.
And that really transported me, brought me very close, and was the most uplifting experience. So that, I think that's a great message for people as well. Karen, thank you so much. Many, many thanks from everybody here. And Karen, do you want to just say your email address there for anyone who wants to get in touch with you?
It's Karen Walsh, no E on it, Karen Walsh medium@gmail.com.
Okay, Karen, I'm going to stick it in the chat box for any of you that didn't get that. Just give me 1 second. So Karen, Karen, Walsh, LSH, medium, MED, DIUM, at
gmail.com.
gmail.com. Karen Walsh medium @gmail.com. And anybody who wants to connect with Karen can do that. I'll put that into our email afterwards with the recording link as well. Karen, thank you so much for this evening.
No
We've really,
problem.
lots and lots of people very interested. Anna, just lastly, you heard A Wonderful World. What a wonderful world today on the car radio at 10:10. Mum's favorite song. Gorgeous, gorgeous message.
And Trina, can I just say as well, you know, the connecting the psychic senses, the workshop that I'm looking at, you know, preparing at the minute. I also am preparing angel workshops if anyone was interested. For me, oh my God, there's no better love, you know, than connecting with the angels. So it's just connecting with your guardian angel and learning about the different archangels. So that will be coming as well. It's just something I've made that decision that I want to be of service. This is where I want to be, and permanently reducing hours in work, and eventually going to be out of work altogether, to actually just solely, I just feel that, you know, I love my family, absolutely the best thing ever, but I don't feel there's any other purpose for me to be on this earth other than now to do this, and to help, you know, to bring healing and be of service to everybody if I can, you know, to make that kind of difference in the healing. Thank you so much.
Not at all. And listen, I've no doubt once you're accepting it, it will come, and
Absolutely.
that's next for you. Karen, it's been a real pleasure, an absolute pleasure. I love your energy. I think it is so joyous and authentic, and you've fabulous stories and a lovely way of expressing what it is about your gift. Thank you everybody for being here.
Thank you so much
this evening. I really appreciate that. It's lovely to open the door and see wonderful faces and lots of lovely energy coming through the screen to us as well. So looking forward to seeing you again, if not next week, the following week, and then towards the end of March we have Cecily Gilligan, who wrote Cures of Ireland. She's coming to talk to us about her book and her cures and all kinds of other things. Thank you everybody, and see you very soon.
Brilliant. Thank you, Trina.
Thanks so much. Bye bye now.